Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. A man who has dedicated his life to Michael Jackson. He's now on tour with the Michael Jackson History Show. You can see him in the UK coming this April and May. And I'm delighted to say, live from South Africa, we've got Dantanio. How are you?
Hi. I'm feeling very well. I'm very well, thank you. And I'm very excited to be coming to the wonderful UK.
It's really interesting to talk to you, and I'll tell you why. I speak to entertainers all over the world every single day, and most of them have got it easy. They put on a suit and they go out and do 45 minutes and then they go home. You, on the other hand, have a lifetime's dedication and about 17,000 hours of prep, don't you?
For sure. I mean, it really takes your whole commitment, paying tribute and performing at this level. Being a Michael Jackson show lasting 2 hours is really, really demanding. I mean, everything is just so demanding.
What's also interesting is you sing live. I'm not quite sure how you do that, because to dance live is hard enough. It's a true physical effort to put this show on, isn't it?
Well, trying to stay true with the discipline or the respect of what Michael Jackson stood for and the era that he came from. If you think back at the 50s, 60s, 70s, up until 80s, and even the late 90s, people got on stage, sang their song, and performed it, from beginning to end. And there's no exception with Michael Jackson, because that's what the fans want and that's what the fans are accustomed to. So I'm fortunate to be a singer-songwriter by profession, and to be able to get on stage and put on, such a show, it's really a blessing. It's really a blessing.
Your physicality is extraordinary. Let's go back to the beginning. What came first, the face, the voice, or the moves?
That is such a wonderful question. A wonderful question. I would say the voice. The voice definitely came first, because I was 9 years old when I started singing and performing and emulating Michael. So from the age of 9, I used to just emulate him around the house and at school, primary school. And when I turned 15, I entered a few competitions. And I remember our spring break festival at high school. I sang The Way You Make Me Feel, and the people screamed so much, I couldn't hear the music over the PA system. So, yeah, the voice came first. And then, obviously, in high school, I said, let me put the costume on, let me put the shirt on, let me try the socks, And, it just became the full package.
I'm sure you're going to agree with me, The Man in the Mirror is his best song ever.
I definitely will give you 10 thumbs up on that.
That's what was amazing about Michael. Not only did he have these incredible ballads like Man in the Mirror, but he had the great rock songs too. He was a full-rounded artist, wasn't he?
For sure. I mean, think about the era again that he came from. His influences, and I mean, imagine being backstage and Jackie Wilson is on stage, being backstage, and there's James Brown, and you share the tours and the venues with all these great hit artists that set the bar for the industry. So his catalog and his encyclopedia was so rich with all these influences.
What I loved about him too was his dedication to his craft. When I watched that video that came out shortly before he died of the rehearsals of the O2 show that never happened, I mean, the precision was ludicrous, which is going to drive anybody mad. I mean, he could hear the difference between a drummer going tutum and tutum, and he'd just hear it. Where, incredible. I mean, no wonder he became neurotic about the music and the moves, because he was so precise.
For sure. Michael Jackson was a perfectionist, and I'd like to attach my personal, beliefs or ability to that, because funny enough, we share the same star sign, myself and Michael. I'm a Virgo and he's a Virgo. And being a Virgo, I can really attest and say, I can redo a thing a 1,000 times until it's perfect. And that's what he was about. And think about his childhood again, growing up in the Jackson 5 with his father, training them and being such a disciplinarian. If you mess up, you get a whooping and you do it again. You always have to perfect yourself.
I bumped into Tito Jackson about 2 weeks after Michael died at BBC Broadcasting House, and I said, would you come in a studio and do an interview with me? And he did. And the pure devastation of losing Michael, I don't think there's any way of summing it up. I'll ask you the same question I asked him, how did you find out and how did you react?
Yeah, this is a very sensitive question because, I always have to gather myself. Because when somebody asks this question, it takes me directly back to that event. I was at home, and my nephew was visiting me at the time, and he's a huge Janet Jackson fan. So I was in bed. It was the morning, and my bedroom faces the lounge, and the TV faces my bedroom. So he came into my bedroom, and he had the door half open. He says, "Good morning, Uncle D. Don't freak out." I said, "What do you mean?" Because we like to play pranks on each other. So I opened the door, and I saw the TV headline, and I just sobbed. I was devastated. I was in bed the whole day.
Yeah. Do you think anybody could have coped with the pressure he was under? I mean, it was an extraordinary schedule, and the scale of that O2 show was enough to drive anybody mad, wasn't it?
I mean, it's the demand of being Michael Jackson, the greatest entertainer of all time. I mean, here's a man that sold out Elvis Presley. He sold out the Beatles. I mean, his hits, the Thriller album, just superseded everything that was in the industry. So to live up to that demand and that expectation of being viewed as the greatest, it's really, really challenging. And you got to psychologically be strong. It does take a toll on you.
And again, that pressure that it's all about you is the same pressure that you have in your show. I wonder when you wake up in the morning whether you give a little cough and go, is the voice there today? It must be terrifying.
It is, and that's why it's important to live such a disciplined life, which I do. I mean, I don't partake in late night activities. I do my show. I go home or to the hotel. I live a very strict, healthy life. I try to check my diet. I jog regularly when I'm not doing the show. And I think lifestyle has everything to do with delivery. If your lifestyle and your dedication is right, your delivery will be on point.
I can't imagine. I mean, I've interviewed many people over the years who have done these type of shows, and I don't think there's anybody harder to impersonate than Michael Jackson, because not only was he an amazing singer, but the physicality of the dance numbers. I wonder, have you ever done the sort of pedometer thing, how many steps and moves you do in an average show? I bet you're walking about 37,000 steps, aren't you, in the average show?
Like Michael Jackson said, dancing, performing is really, it's a feeling. And I think I never can count how many times I do this, because Michael Jackson was an improvisational dancer, meaning that he would make up a thing away from what he rehearsed 2-3 hours or 2-3 days ago. And that thing he does in the moment, because Michael was about in the moment, he would find the magic. So that's the brilliance of performing from the heart, I guess.
Talk to me about the physicality of Michael and what it's like walking around the streets as him. I mean, you can put on a cap, maybe, you can run quickly so they don't see you, but ultimately you look so much like him. How much of that is you and how much of it is prosthetic or the makeup or the hair?
Well, the transition for me from Dantanio to Michael Jackson takes about 2 hours.
Right.
And that is with stage makeup, contouring. Yes, I do wear a wig, and just the personality, the internal person. It really takes a bit of a commitment and a change over. But away from that, I'm fortunate enough to be able to still be Dantanio when I'm out of the costume, when I'm out of character. But people still have that thing where they want me to speak like Michael. They want me to have those nuances that they see on stage. But it's much less demanding for me to be myself than what it is to be Michael. When I'm in costume, I remember I went to a shopping mall one day after a show, after a radio interview, and the children the mall came to a standstill.
Wow. Incredible. What a thrill, though. And I mean, I've done a lot of interviews in Las Vegas. I was talking to you about Vegas earlier, and I interviewed a guy called Bob Anderson who does a beautiful Frank Sinatra, probably the best I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And he becomes him. But again, the toil of sitting in that chair for 2 hours every night can easily drive you mad. I suppose for you, that's the moment that you embody what it was to be Michael Jackson, a megastar, because you have to hold yourself in that way. You've got to have absolute confidence, haven't you, to pull it off?
Yes. True. I agree with you, because after every show, we do a meet and greet. And I mean, the response that I get, I mean, at the meet and greet, we take pictures and I do autographs, and people would stand with me taking pictures, and some people would just sob. They would just cry, and some people would just shake and be so nervous because they just can't believe this is the same person they saw on stage. Some of the compliments I got was that some people would say to me, you know, tonight I watched your show, and I have seen Michael Jackson live, but tonight I had to remind myself that this is not Michael Jackson.
Incredible. And that's the perfect compliment. What you don't want to do is do a parody of him. You want to become him, and that's certainly what you do. In terms of the excitement, talk to me about when the lights are on and the pin focus is on you and the band are playing and you're in a moment where you just shine. It must be absolutely exhilarating.
It is. It's beautiful. And I mean, as you said, in that moment, I really get hints of feeling what it must have been like to be Michael, and to the point where the audience ends up calling Michael. You know, they don't say, Dantanio, I love you. When the fans call Michael from the balcony, when the fans call Michael here from the audience, it's really confirming to me that I've reached that crossover where people now totally just see Michael.
Incredible.
But it is really rejuvenating.
And as for that affectation he had with the baby voice and all of that stuff, do you think that was the real Michael, or he was doing an Elvis and giving them what he thought they wanted?
I would say how I understand it is that you know, Michael always came from a place of innocence, and I think having the innocent mindset, he tried to probably hold on to that innocence. And I also think back at his childhood and how he was raised, as far as, you know, imagine somebody screaming at you every day, or, you know, disciplining you all the time. It makes you very submissive. It really makes you submissive, and that's what I found in his voice. His voice was very submissive and polite. He was polite all the time.
Yeah, one of the greatest stars ever, as far as I'm concerned. I interviewed Donny Osmond in Vegas not long ago, and again, you can't understand what it feels like to have always been famous. That's got to take its toll, hasn't it? When from a baby you were a megastar, it's got to play with your confidence. It's got to play with your entire psyche.
I mean, everything. You look at everything. When you go shopping, you checking what you're wearing. When you eat something, you're checking if it's okay for your health. Or if you buy an item, people judge you. Why is he reading that book? Why is he driving that car? And if you drive a smaller car and you're this megastar, it's like, oh, he's down and out. He's not doing well. Even if you just like maybe the kind of car or whatever, but it's really demanding. I think psychologically, it's I take my hat off at all the great stars and especially child stars who just kept it together. It's not easy.
No,
it's
incredible.
Really not easy.
Congratulations on everything. Dantanio is the star of Michael Jackson, The History Show, which is coming to the UK. Let's give the tour dates then. You start on the 28th of April at the Royal Theatre in Castlebar in Ireland. You then move to Dublin and Cork, then on to Limerick. Then you come to the UK, May 4th in Runcorn, Chelsea, May 5th, Wolverhampton, where I'm going to see you on the 6th, Guildford and Horsham, Clacton, Castlebar again, back to Ireland. You can see all those shows by going to the website. Get all the details for these shows on the website. mjhistoryshow.com is the website. And Dantanio, thank you so much for talking to me today. I can't wait to see the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Alex. I'm looking forward to sharing my South African talents and roots and culture with some of the fans all over UK and Ireland. Thank you so much.